This is KSL Sunday Edition with Boyd Matheson.
Welcome to Sunday Edition. I am Boyd Matheson. Each Sunday, we attempt to divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense. We have conversations with great thinkers, great leaders, and great people making a difference. We talk politics so we can discuss society, and we explore society so we can discuss principles and the people in America who actually live them. We bring the best and brightest to Utah, and we send the Utah model to our nation's capital and beyond. Well, Utah's capital city has been the center of the Beehive State since the pioneers first set foot in this valley in 1847. Salt Lake City has attracted great leaders and thinkers and businesses of all kinds and has increasingly been seen not just as the crossroads to the West, but a crossroads to the world. Well, such a vision and such growth demand and bring real challenges, real opportunities that require vision and real leadership. Currently, Salt Lake City is looking at reimagining downtown, hosting the Winter Olympics in 2034, dealing with housing prices and homelessness, infrastructure, water, and the stewardship of the environment, just to name a few. Well, someone who is leading in the middle of such conversations is Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall. She was elected the 36th mayor of Salt Lake City on November 5th, 2019, and took the oath of office on the steps of City Hall on January 6, 2020. She is a powerful convener, compassionate advocate, extraordinary listener, and a truly strategic thinker. And Mayor, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to join you.
There's just a few things going on in your world. Let's start with all this reimagining of downtown Salt Lake City. Give us an update.
Yes, just earlier this week, our city council approved a partnership agreement between Salt Lake City and Smith Entertainment Group that allows us the financial path that we can imagine to move forward with reimagining the Delta Center to fit NHL as well, to call the Delta Center in downtown Salt Lake City the permanent home of NBA and NHL, and most of all, to build an entertainment, culture, and convention district that really breaks through the wall of the Salt Palace that exists downtown today.
Yeah. As you look at all of that, this has been the ultimate in connecting the dots and bringing people together, including Salt Lake County has to come together as you look at things like a Bravenel Hall and so on. Kind of walk us through navigating all of that from the sports and entertainment side to what needs to happen for the citizens in downtown Salt Lake and really imagining that future.
Yeah, where we're at right now is just the first big click of the cog, and there's still many more clicks to go. As you mentioned, Salt Lake County is a key critical partner because those two blocks that are the imagined future of the Sports Entertainment Convention and Culture District are the counties. The Salt Palace exists on them. Utah Museum of Contemporary Art and a Bravenel Hall are there. And as you've heard from Mayor Wilson and Smith Entertainment Group, they want to see UMOCA and a Bravenel persist. They want to see the symphony persist there, but imagining how to make that happen is still in the works. And the funding for the county to do their part of renovation is still yet to be determined. So the city step is a big one for us, but it's just the first of many more to come. In the next 30 days, a state committee that the legislature's assembled will review our partnership agreement, tell us if they want us to make any changes. We hope they're happy with it. And then they'll get it back to our city council so they can enact a 0.5% sales tax increase that the legislature directed us to be able to do in order to fund our part of this agreement.
I think this whole reimagining of downtown is the ultimate in a big bite and a long chew. This is a real long-term project. One of the hallmarks of your leadership has really been doing those kind of big vision pieces, but also making sure that the citizens, the local citizens in particular, really feel that connection as well.
This is about the next at least half a century of who we are as a downtown community and our face to the world. As you mentioned, the 2034 games on the horizon, hopefully. This is where most of our visitors come from a convention perspective, tourism, business, or otherwise. And it will fundamentally change our experience downtown for residents or visitors. It's a wonderful opportunity for us, but it's unique in this nation. Most of these public dollar supported sports expansion enterprises are about getting a team or renovating a facility. For us, we're getting 3 blocks of public spaces. We're getting culture, convention, and entertainment woven into this. Public art, Japantown being reimagined and supported, a lot of funding actually for affordable housing and family-sized housing in the downtown core. So many, many public benefits, so much more than most of these deals see around the country.
Yeah, I think that's a real distinction in terms of how you and the legislature, the entertainment group, and the county are working at this. This is much more than just a sports play. This is really about where we convene, where we gather, where we come together.
And it is unique. I'm a Democrat in a blue dot here in the Red Sea, and historically we don't always necessarily work so collaboratively. Sometimes we can get deals across the line, but to do it in a way that is so collaborative with a shared vision of a broader benefit than we could simply achieve by just making NHL possible. This is a wonderful sort of chemistry that's happening in the state of Utah. I get to be a tiny part of it. Yeah. But the big things that are happening right now have a lot to do, I think, with the type of leadership, the tone, and the character that people want to bring to the way we engage as leaders in this state. It's a good thing right now. Yeah,
that Utah model continues to play out. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later on in the show. We're also going to get to the Olympics in just a second. But before we take this break, give us one thing that you hope the citizens of Salt Lake City, and really the citizens of the world, can look to Salt Lake as an example of.
Well, we are doubling our downtown core right now. We're growing our residential population in a phenomenal way, and many other cities around the state are. At the same time, we're reducing our water consumption. And when you compare us to 20 years ago when we had 20,000 fewer people, we're using almost 30% less water in Salt Lake City right now. Growth doesn't have to mean a growth in all of your resources and the things that you absolutely must have to be viable and thriving. Salt Lake City's been an example, yes, on the waterfront, but in a lot of other ways of increasing access to parks, great small business opportunities, livability, walkability, and I hope we can keep doing that.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to stay with the question and with the conversation with Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall when Sunday Edition continues here on KSL. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. We're staying with the question and the conversation with Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall. And Mayor, Olympics, we're just 10 days away from the announcement about the 2034 Olympics. I know you're also going to be over there in Paris for that announcement and the Olympic Games. Give us a little update in that space.
Oh, what a thrilling time to be a Utahn and to know that we have 80% of our state supporting bringing the games back to Salt Lake City and Utah is really phenomenal the world over. I can't wait to be there in Paris. We've invited everybody in the state to come out to Washington Square. A lot of people camp out on the night of the 23rd in anticipation of the parade anyway, but we're going to make it a party bright and early because when the IOC makes that vote, in the mid-morning, late morning in Paris, it's going to be about 3, 4 a.m. here. So please come down, celebrate, have a pajama party, and there'll be food trucks with breakfast and drinks and lots of fun. So please come down and join us. It's a great time for Utahns. That's great. Well, we're going to talk more about the Utah model and the Olympics coming up in our last segment. It's a big legacy and it's a big future opportunity in terms of the city. With the growth of Salt Lake City and all of the fantastic things that are going on, there's also the challenges you alluded to earlier. Housing continues to be an issue. Homelessness continues to be a challenge. Give us some perspective in terms of how are we going about tackling those issues? First, I want to give the perspective that these are challenges of growth. Yeah. These are good challenges when compared with those of decline, of shrinking cities, of dwindling states with failing economies. That's not who Utah is. It's not who Salt Lake City is. And so in the context of where we could be compared to other places, these are challenges that we should embrace. And the way that we are embracing them is no longer in many ways alone as the capital city, as has been historically for much of the work around homelessness, but it's with our partners at the county and the state. And the state has stepped up in a way we've really never seen before, not only around the need for more housing and affordable housing, but shelter, operational services, and mental health needs. Because the solutions to homelessness are truly as complex as each individual who experiences it. Salt Lake City stepped up in a big way with affordable housing dollars. We've increased our investment more than 400% from where we were in the past. We've put $55 million in my first term. We just approved another $17.7 million for affordable housing creation. We've seen more than 4,500 new units of affordable housing happen in Salt Lake City. There's a lot more in the pipeline, and we can't let our foot off the gas because with our growing population, this is the kind of investment that we need to sustain for some time. We're grateful we have the state as a partner in this.
Yeah, one of the things I really appreciated about your leadership, especially when it comes to those that are struggling with homelessness, is that you're not talking about them as if they were a liability to be managed, but these are people with infinite potential and an opportunity to contribute to the community.
You know, the more you work around these subjects, the more you realize, and in whatever form you engage, that it could be any of us. Really, but for a tragic circumstance, a series of sad things happening in our lives or decisions made, impacts from others' decisions, we could be there. And this isn't about they, them, and us. It's about people in our community, family members, brothers and sisters. And but by the grace of God, go I.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that approach is paying dividends and making a difference for those in those communities that are so in need and can be such a great contributor to our communities.
Absolutely.
We have much to learn from all of them. So in our last couple minutes, just give us a little bit of a view in terms of what else is happening within the city, what we should be watching for. I know your agenda is not just Olympics and sports stuff. It goes well beyond that. Give us a little insight.
Downtown population in Salt Lake City right now is doubling. We've hovered around 4,500 people living in the downtown core for well over a decade. And by January or so of next year, we're going to hit 10,000. And that number, with the construction happening, is continuing to grow. So the experience of being downtown, whether you're a resident or a visitor or you're a business operator, is changing as we become a truly 18-hour city. I want to see more families in downtown. I want to see families be able to thrive in Salt Lake City, and particularly in the downtown core. So you should look for investments from our city that expand green space, play space, safe open spaces. The Green Loop is a big ambition of my administration to build a linear park, 5.5 miles, that encircles the downtown in basically what's the middle of our city streets right now. Thanks to the great planning of Brigham Young, we have really wide downtown streets. And also a pedestrianization of Main Street from South Temple to 400 South. We've been piloting it with these open streets events where we close it off to traffic. It'll happen again in the next couple weekends, but we want to do it in a permanent way. And it's these kind of complements to daily life that are also part, I think, of our attractiveness on a global scale, whether that's with future sporting teams or events or the Olympics. These are the kind of core factors that make a downtown great.
Awesome. Mayor Erin Mendenhall, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate your perspective and your leadership in the city.
Thank you, Boyd.
All right. Well, we're going to look ahead to important lessons for the nation and the world in a uniquely Utah July 24th Pioneer Celebration and Olympic host city selection celebration when Sunday Edition continues here on KSL 5 TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. July 24th is just around the corner, and with it, a double opportunity for celebration. Not only will the day harken back to the pioneers who tamed this territory against great odds, it will also summon the Olympic spirit, as the International Olympic Committee will announce the host for the 2034 Winter Olympics. So let's unpack some pioneering principles and Olympic dreams rooted deeply in what makes Utah truly unique. Well, the country is at a crossroads. Roiling white-hot political rhetoric distracts from vital issues facing the nation. Uncertain sound from America's leaders creates confusion and division, while failing families and crumbling communities are the result of degrading social undercurrents, which are undermining civil society. So in this crucial 2024 election cycle, undecided voters and what we often refer to as the movable middle will ultimately decide the direction of the nation. The movable middles are different from just independents in that they are usually registered as Democrats or Republicans, and they tend to span the center-left to the center-right. But they've disconnected from politics because they're exhausted and exasperated by the divisive rhetoric from the extremes of both parties. Many in this group won't vote at all unless candidates begin to speak to them in a way that matters and has meaning in their lives. These voters want to hear policies and solutions centered in community, compassion, self-reliance, and upward mobility. And no one is talking that language or about those issues today. America, a country clearly at the crossroads, might do well to look at the crossroads of Utah for insight. Far from perfect, Utah has long been a leading laboratory of democracy where individuals and communities thrive and succeed. The pistons driving this engine include a strong free market economy and robust institutions of civil society. On the economic front, low unemployment, upward economic mobility, an educated workforce, an international business focus, and a growing technology corridor are providing extraordinary results here in the Beehive State. Global humanitarian reach and vast language skills stemming from Utah being home to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints extends a worldwide vision for the state. Low taxes and fewer regulations accelerate business expansion and fire an entrepreneurial spirit that has Utah positioned to have impact nationally and internationally. Our civil society is a little harder to calculate, but it manifests in strong families and neighborhoods, volunteer organizations, faith groups, and businesses that all engage and give back to the communities they call home. Community-driven problem solving outside of just big government connects and strengthens and serves us all. Utah also has modeled how to embrace and lift refugees, balance LGBTQ rights and religious liberty, and has proven that the rule of law and compassion are compatible principles when it comes to crafting immigration policy. Utah's influence continues to expand, and many see it as uniquely positioned to be a major player in the international economy while extending its thriving civil society. Utah has long held place as the crossroads of the West. That may sound like colloquial self-aggrandizement and an easy applause line for a political speech, but for nearly a decade now, I've posited that Utah is poised not to just be the crossroads to the West, but truly a crossroads to the world. The skeptics and cynics will snicker at the suggestions of Utah as a crossroads to the world, and they wouldn't be the first, actually. When pioneers first entered the Salt Lake Valley, they made bold and audacious declarations about the future of the area that have all proven prophetic. At the driving of the Golden Spike, connecting the nation by rail, such sentiments were shared once again and scoffed at by some. Today, similar cynics and skeptics will challenge a vision of Utah as a crossroads to the world. But the reality is Utah's been quietly working, patiently paving, and firmly forming the foundation of the crossroads for many years now. Now, those undecided, movable middle voters are starving for the principles and policies and the elevated kind of problem solving that drive Utah's strong free market economy and robust institutions of civil society. So for a country at a crossroads, candidates and citizens alike can gain insight from the crossroads of the West and increasingly that critical crossroads to the world. On the Olympic front, Utah has been preparing to invite the world back to the Beehive State for the 2034 Olympics. The Olympic Games are always about hope. The hope of a young athlete in training, the hope of an aging competitor with one more shot at glory and gold, the hope of a team in pursuit of a spot on the medal stand, and even the hope of a group of citizens wishing to welcome the world to the place they call home. While hope is important to each of these Olympic efforts, hope is not a strategy. Achieving ultimate success begins with hope, is launched with a strategy, and ultimately delivered through an executable plan. Now, we're just 10 days away from the International Olympic Committee choosing a host city for the 2034 Winter Olympics that can provide the right place, the right people, and the right strategy to deliver. The Olympic movement needs some hope in the midst of a rough patch where host cities have struggled to survive financially. Venues haven't been maintained or maximized, and corrupt opportunists have used the Olympics for their own profit. So could Utah transcend hope and possibly transform and even reinvent the way Olympic Games get done? I think so. What the Olympic movement needs is a refresher course in the Utah model, where hope, strategy, and executable plans are the way we come together and the way we get things done in the Beehive State. That's precisely why the Olympic Committee seems poised to return to Utah. The Utah and the Olympic Committee has a proven model, reliable partner, and a city tailor-made to deliver memorable moments to bolster the future of the Olympic movement. Utah gets the hope portion of the Olympics in a unique way. The possibility of welcoming the world and showcasing our beautiful state while cheering on the underdogs from every nation on earth strikes a chord in the hearts of Utahns. Being part of a heroic Olympic story is really the essence of living the Utah story. Hard work, determination, overcoming adversity, and winning with character matters. It's a hope-filled match made in heaven, in my view. But remember, hope isn't a strategy. Hope alone isn't enough to justify the significant risk that comes with hosting an Olympic game. The ability to host a Winter Olympics is a byproduct of Utah's strategy to be a premier winter sports capital, not just an Olympic city. That's an important distinction. An Olympic-only view is seen in the suffering of many former Olympic host cities whose short-sighted hope has left them struggling with mountains of debt. So if the goal begins and ends with a torch and a flame, the Olympic spirit is doomed to be snuffed out eventually. Now, part of the Utah model strategy includes the economic vision of Utah being an international destination and global business player. Utah continues to invest in things that matter. As a result, the state has an expanded airport, better access, infrastructure, and proven venues. Because this isn't just hope for an Olympics, it's a strategy for the future of the state. Utah showed it can deliver under seemingly impossible circumstances with a high degree of difficulty. In 2002, scandal had rocked the bidding process, 9/11 had shaken the nation, and many advertisers and sponsors had tapped out as a result. The Utah team proved adept at tackling tough issues from security, media, and transportation to hospitality, housing, and language translation. Every business and civic and religious organization engaged in a meaningful way. The community came together and delivered specific executables, built momentum, and ultimately restored the confidence of sponsors. The Utah model delivered a uniquely Utah moment and was a significant factor in saving the Olympic movement in 2002. We're a long ways away from 2002. The challenges facing the Olympic movement and host cities are numerous and real. And so if there is hope for the future of the Olympic movement, it's most likely to be found and realized through the Utah model. Reinventing the way the Olympic Games get done is a hope worth exploring. It may be a vision that a Utah-style strategy and executable plan can actually deliver. So a country at the crossroads, an Olympic movement in need of rejuvenation, might just look to Utah, the crossroads of the West, an emerging crossroads to the world for insight, for inspiration, and real solutions. Now, Sunday Edition will be off for the next several weeks as we join you in enjoying the Olympic coverage from Paris. We'll be back on August the 18th. And that wraps it up for us today on Sunday Edition. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks so much for joining us. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference. Music and the spoken word is next.